Good evening. You're watching the news on Croatian television. In the ongoing saga regarding the Agrokor crisis, Prime Minister Andrej Plenković once again stated that the only possible option to save the consortium from bankruptcy was to pass the so-called Lex Agrokor and allow the government to step in. The Prime Minister confirmed that his government was in constant contact with Agrokor's owner, Ivica Todorić, and that everything was done transparently and legally. Plenković said he believes they have achieved the goals they set out to accomplish.
In my opinion, all our goals have been fulfilled. The restructuring process is moving forward. The Croatian economy is functioning normally. We've had the best tourism season to date, and finally people have jobs. This is a process that we have chosen to navigate by hiring an emergency commissioner. We also expect a team of experts from world-renowned institutions, including auditors and the people tasked with restructuring the business, to help us reach our ultimate goal. And that is the sustained functionality of the companies within Agrokor and the stability of the Croatian economy.
Economy Minister Martina Dalić said that while she never had a private meeting with Mr. Todorić, it was he who had approached the government first and not the other way around.
Mr. Todorić himself, together with his whole management team, sought the passing of Lex Agrokor. He was the one who approached the Croatian government and not the other way around. He was asking us for credit and financial support. What he got in return was a legal framework to solve the problems that he himself had created. In this context, he asked for these problems to be solved.
Meanwhile, Mr. Todorić responded to the economy minister's statement by accusing her of once again misleading the public. Todorić has launched a series of scathing attacks on the government and restructuring manager Ante Ramljak via a personal blog, saying they illegally took over his multi-billion-euro food and retail empire. His latest post lists the 14 steps the government took to seize control of his companies and assets. Meanwhile, the government maintains that the heavily indebted company had threatened to bring down the Croatian economy. Ante Ramljak, the government-appointed restructuring manager, maintains that the accusations against him are baseless.
I'm not going to debate with anyone through the media, especially with Mr. Todorić. I think the people can judge for themselves as to what's going on here. These personal attacks against me mean nothing. I think it's obvious who did what in this whole affair.
The HDZ and the SDP are perhaps one step closer to reaching an agreement regarding the appointment of Constitutional Court justices and the establishment of a committee to investigate Agrokor. The heads of their respective parties in Parliament, Branko Bačić of the HDZ and the SDP's Arsen Bauk, met to discuss the two polarizing issues.
We will take the next steps when all of the necessary conditions are met. This means that there must be total agreement regarding the whole package of issues we are talking about.
The 9th International Business Forum Big Plans Day was held in Zagreb earlier today. Organized by the Lider Economic Weekly, the event was attended by President Kolinda Grabar-Kitarović, as well as Prime Minister Andrej Plenković and key ministers in his cabinet. In their opening remarks, the president brought attention to Croatia's declining demographics, while the Prime Minister said that Croatia could look forward to more economic growth as the government continues to implement some much-needed reforms.
We must begin to tackle the issue I've been saying is extremely important and alarming for the past 2 years: negative demographic trends and the exodus we've seen since joining the European Union.
2017, from the government's perspective, with respect to what me and my colleagues have been working on, was a year of maintaining stability, while next year will be much more focused on growth and reforms.
Health Minister Milan Kujundžić and Zagreb Mayor Milan Bandić are in Brussels lobbying to have Zagreb become the new home of the European Medicines Agency. The agency, which has around 900 employees and an annual budget of 300 million euros, will be moved from London to another EU member state once Brexit is completed. 19 cities from across the Union are in the running to host the prestigious agency, with a final decision to be made in November.
Croatia has knowledge, experience, and tradition on the one hand. On the other, we have quality of life, something Mr. Bandić will address. So in terms of the criteria that are relevant in today's world, Zagreb is probably one of the most attractive cities in the world.
A conference on the Croatian tourism industry was held in Zagreb. Tourism Minister Gari Capelli confirmed double-digit growth in both overnight stays and tourist numbers. Plans were laid out for the future direction of the industry, including more investments in the health sector as an ideal way to ensure year-round tourism. As such, the minister announced amendments to the relevant legislation to ease investment into the lucrative sector.
We're talking about somewhere around 100 million overnight stays and more than 16 million tourists. This means that Croatia will see significant increases in both categories over last year, about 10 and 12% respectively.
Taking a quick look at sports, the women's national handball team is one step closer to qualifying for next year's European Championships in France after beating Switzerland earlier this evening. In football, Croatia's reigning club champions Rijeka have traveled to Italy for their Europa League game tomorrow night versus Milan at the storied San Siro Stadium. Despite the enormity of the challenge, Rijeka remains confident of a positive result. They also expect around 4,000 Croatian football fans to be in attendance for the historic match. And finally, FIFA and UEFA have given the green light for Croatia's World Cup qualifier against Finland to be played in Rijeka and not in Osijek as was originally planned. The final game on home soil ahead of the World Cup in Russia is scheduled for October 6th. The weather forecast for tomorrow calls for partly sunny skies with scattered clouds in Dalmatia, especially in the far south where isolated showers are expected. The interior will also see sun and scattered clouds with morning fog in places, but mostly in the mountains and western regions. The Adriatic coast will see a moderate northeasterly with high intensity in the Velebit Channel with gale force gusts. Afternoon winds in Dalmatia will be of moderate strength and come out of the southwest and west. Morning lows of between 8 and 13 in the interior and between 13 and 19 on the coast will give way to highs of 21 to 26 degrees Celsius. Continental regions will see mostly sunny skies and no precipitation over the next few days. Mornings will continue to be cool and foggy in places. The weekend also looks to be somewhat cooler. The Adriatic coast will also be sunny through till Sunday. Increased clouds are expected in the far south, with rain showers possible on Friday. A moderate northeasterly wind will blow overnight and into the morning hours, especially in the north. And that brings us to the end of our program. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow night.